The beautiful city of San Francisco is threatened by a problem that was once considered a distant danger. The shores of the Golden City have been breached by forces beyond control. Climate change now pays tribute to the iconic metropolitan with rising sea levels and devastating storms that tear through the streets, flood major roads, and render major routes unusable for vehicles. Yes, San Francisco is on the verge of becoming a second Atlantis. Yet hope looms in the distance for the residents of San Francisco as the government is working on a plan to save the city from going under. A $13 billion mega project is on its way to fortify the shorelines, making it difficult to breach even when water levels rise higher. This project is one of a kind and the first in history. Let's take a closer look at this fascinating project and the challenges that might be encountered in its course. Before we proceed, we encourage you to subscribe and turn on notifications so that we can provide you with the latest updates on construction, luxury, and everything in the world of the filthy rich. Let's get to it, shall we? The city of San Francisco is collaborating with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to take on the biggest infrastructure project that the city has ever witnessed. The ambitious project would oversee the elevation of the Embarcadero by 7 feet and the installation of solid flood barriers along specific areas along the shore, including the famous aquatic park and Heron's Head Park, which happens to be in a flood-prone zone. It is not just a facelift or an aesthetic, but it is first a shield against the rising sea levels that may continue to escalate until the city's waterfront is overwhelmed. This has been an ongoing problem, and the mayor of San Francisco, London Nicole Breed, has emphasized that this is a legacy project to protect future generations and to preserve the integrity of the city. The tides are just as high as the stakes on this one, and major sacrifices will have to be made if this project is ever going to become a reality. Some areas are more vulnerable to these rainstorms than others. For instance, the Mission District, Portola, Bayview, Mission Bay, roadways in San Mateo, and Soma are at a higher risk of being submerged than others. Each time there is a severe rainfall, residents have to prepare for the worst. This usually includes people scampering to protect their homes and businesses, while critical service officials work hand in hand to ensure that the city is kept running. The design for the project is going to take a lot of work. According to Brian Harper, Civil Works Director at Regional Planning and Environmental Center, it is much easier to design for a known possibility than designing for an unknown probability. There are just too many things to put into consideration. The initial draft of the project structure was heavily scrutinized by various city agencies, highlighting possible vulnerabilities and oversight to ensure that the final plan is impregnable. Who is funding this massive project? In order to finance such a huge project, Congress has accepted the burden of 65%, while the remainder of the funds is split between the state and city reserves. The project is slated to begin in 2026 and is predicted to wrap up in 2040 if things go according to plan. Here is footage of the flooding caused by the accumulating downpour and the sea flowing into areas of the city, covering the renowned ferry building and drowning the walkways. Coastal storms and high tides are sending signs of greater mayhem yet to come, with the Embarcadero already subdued and humbled by the watery threat. This closely resembles a scene from a Steven Spielberg creation and a potential economic calamity. Imagine the weight of the damage caused by these floodwaters, beginning from massive traffic gridlocks to the destruction of properties. Businesses in major areas shut down, and commuting becomes seemingly impossible, not to mention the lives that are put at risk. Experts have projected that at this rate, the sea levels will rise to an astounding 3.5 feet by the end of the century. If that prediction were to be a current reality, the present Embarcadero would be completely underwater, and businesses and historic sites would be facing a greater threat than they have ever imagined. Raising the Embarcadero alone may not be sufficient to counter the unpredictable forces of nature. There would have to be a series of flood defenses such as gates and barriers deployed to take the hit when push comes to shove. The plan to protect the shoreline stretches beyond the most toured zones in the area. Reinforcement plans may include fortifying the walls and flood barriers that already exist. Sadly, there are areas where mere barriers and walls just wouldn't be enough. Places like the aquatic park and Heron's Head Park require more structural defenses from extreme currents. There are plans to raise the park higher, utilizing innovations such as ascending terraces or hills, which do take away from the general aesthetic and feel of the former. Ironically, the transformation plan isn't going to make things better overnight. The amount of work that will go into the project is extensive and might come with a lot of inconveniences before San Franciscans can enjoy its privilege. During the course of this project, residents should brace for lengthy road closures and reroutes, heavy gridlocks. The ferry building could be closed for a period of time with no tentative time of reopening, and businesses around the area may have to close temporarily or even cease to exist. Certain places may be off limits, and surely this will impact on the economy and the daily lives of people. Tough times are ahead, but maybe not for too long. State Senator Scott Wiener said in an interview that this project is a necessary disruption that had to be faced sooner or later in order to prevent a catastrophe in the future. San Francisco, the 13th largest city in the U.S., prioritizes the safety of its residents and is working hard towards maintaining its lush environment and eclectic population and businesses by beefing up existing architecture against flooding, while lavishly spending on its prized project to ensure that rising sea levels do not continuously wreak havoc on land. There are unanswered questions, such as what happens if the project should exceed the budget? Will taxes rise even higher to raise funding for the project? Even if this project is approved by Congress, will there be kickbacks from environmentalists on the impact of the project on the environment? There are still so many uncertainties, but one thing is clear: San Francisco will always do what it needs to do to survive. It has seen and survived many floods in the past, and it will devise sustainable plans to make this project a success. What is your opinion on the project being developed to mitigate flooding in San Francisco? Let us know what you think in the comments. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this project and on other massive projects from around the world. That's all from us, and we'll see you in the next video.